Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to another Mark Goes Rogue podcast. This is Mark Lucchese, also known as Mark at the Mic, and I've got a little something different today. I'm going to play my original Mark Goes Rogue podcast that was recorded on April 17th, 2023, but never got published due to some technical issues. Well, most of those issues have been corrected, so today I present to you my very first Mark Goes Rogue podcast, recorded in the dining room of our home in Burlingame. Hope you enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my premiere episode of a Mark at the Mic podcast. This is Mark Lucchese, also known as Mark at the Mic, and my guest today has been called the hardest working rock musician in the Bay Area. He is also the singer, composer of the jingle for my other podcast, Burlingame, It's a Small Town. He writes, he sings, he produces. He's in 3 or 4 well-known Northern California bands, including his own band, Neon Velvet. Let's find out more about my guest today, known to many Bay Area music fans as Bray. Thank you so much for being a guest today on Mark Goes Rogue show.
Let me just do some vocal exercises. Russell Westbrook. Yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
You're ready? Okay,
Yeah.
Great. That's wonderful. I'm going to read something I took off the website, I think, if you don't mind. It says, Bray is a one-of-a-kind performer that blends master craft with an uncanny gift for elevating any venue he plays. Having toured 12 countries, Bray's knack for reading a room and playing to people's hearts has been compared to Jimmy Fallon, while his expressive voice bridges the gap between Bowie and Bieber. I don't know who Bieber is. Who's Bieber?
Justin Bieber. He's a fairly popular artist from the last 15 or so years.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, Bray, I know you've been performing as long as I can remember, 30 years, more or less, right? Maybe before that, too. So, tell me when was your aha moment, the moment that you knew that you could say, hey, I can make a living doing this? When did that happen?
You know, it had to do probably more with just performing than music. So I'd say doing impressions of family members might be my aha. Just if I could get adults to laugh and sort of ask me to do it again in front of other adults and things like that, it would be like, this has some value and this is like putting people in a good mood and really just changing the way people feel and kind of brightening maybe a room or someone's heart. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so tell me something then. Why didn't you do stand-up? You never did any stand-up comedy.
You know, I don't know if anyone experiences it this way, but I kind of treat some of my shows that way anyway. Like, if you listen to some of the, there's some artists, let's say like Steve Martin, he would kind of mix music and comedy, and maybe I'm a lot more 80-20 with music being the 80. But I think if it's, if I'm really being real, I think it'll naturally happen in a show anyway, especially solo shows.
Yeah. Okay, so you went to San Francisco State. You graduated with a major in graphic art. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But have you ever really used it?
I did. I had my own business doing like business identity, corporate identity kind of stuff, logos.
But you were still involved in music.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had the old, what my mom would call fallback plan, which I'm really spiritually against. I don't believe in fallback.
Right.
Because I think I want to believe in and give every ounce of myself to something I believe in. But I do enjoy graphics and art and industrial communications, which actually was the name of the major.
Industrial communications. Yeah. That's great. That's another podcast, okay?
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
That's another one.
Yeah.
Okay, so your whole music career, you're now playing in 3 or 4 different bands, plus you have your own band, Neon Velvet, is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't really ever count the number of bands, but, I can list them.
And you also do solo work?
Yes. Yep. So around, what year would it have been? I guess around 2010, I was still only doing original music up to that point, and I would cringe and quiver off the idea of playing covers. I just thought it was beneath me. And someone came to an original show and offered for me to do a Duran Duran tribute band, to be in one and begin one. Kind of restart one he already had, but that opened my eyes because I felt like I just got back from a tour where I lost a bunch of money. This doesn't always happen, but that one was was just after the 2008 financial crisis that was happening, and it kind of had a little bit of a delayed reaction in Europe where we were touring. So long story long, it was time to try something new. And all of a sudden, I got an agent through doing that, and I found out I could make a living.
And doing that, though, when did you say to yourself, hey, I'm just going to continue doing this, doing cover bands? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Covers.
Well, okay. So when I started doing the Duran tribute, which was called Duran, that was fun and just great to explore and kind of get my chops strengthened on things I wouldn't normally do. That is kind of the benefit of playing covers. You just get your chops better, because when you write your own stuff, you kind of get your own habits. You keep going back to your old habits and do things that are natural to you. If you do things that are not natural to you, you expand your abilities. So that's what I got out of Duran. And about, 6 months to a year in of doing that, I was asked by a great band called Tainted Love to sub in and sit with them on some shows. So we played a show. The first show I ever did with them was at there's a casino right on the border of California and Nevada.
Cal Neva?
No, but it's right there.
Okay.
I can't think of the name right now, but 700 people.
Wow.
Sold out.
Wow.
Packed. I could choose more or less some of the 80s songs I wanted to sing, and it was really fun, and it didn't have so much of the stress and responsibility of your own project.
Right.
So I could just prance around and laugh and dance and sing, and I'm like, wow, and it was good money, and I just really, right then I thought, I'm gonna do some more of this, although I want to say I never stopped doing original music, because I start getting twitchy and grumpy.
Yeah,
if I don't.
You still like writing your own music. Yeah.
I still have something to say.
Will you do that? Do you do that, your own music and your solo gigs, or do you incorporate them into some of your...
As that introduction you read that was so beautifully written by me said, I do try to read the room is all. So, if I think people are receptive to it, and I graciously, by some spirit above, have them in the palm of my hand, I may share some original songs. Or if they're really not paying attention, I'll play all originals. But just to write them as I go, practically, or keep that going. But I'd say I mix them in, and to places where I play regularly, they get requested.
That's great.
So that's good.
Yeah. So when you were with Tainted Love, did you rehearse with them much before you went on for your very first time in
No, zero.
Tahoe, Reno?
Nope. I like that about it, because you're kind of just trial by fire, and you're asked to do it because they believe you can.
But you must have known the songs ahead of time that were going to be played.
Yes, so you get a set list, but it's up to you to, learn their recorded arrangements, or just be ready, And that's a thing I like about just performing in general, is sort of that risk of being in the moment, and a word I try to say often, which I value, which is vulnerability. Just be, if some mistake does happen, how can you gracefully wriggle through it, or kind of just share that in that moment, and maybe turn it into more of a success than if you hadn't made a mistake.
Okay. So I mentioned when we opened this thing up that you have played in 3 or 4 different bands. You mentioned one, Tainted Love.
Yeah.
There is Neon Velvet. That would be 2.
Right.
Bray and the Dens is 3.
Yes.
And Mustache Harbor is 4.
Right.
And then 5 would be your solo gigs, right?
Right.
So how often are you
there's
doing?
More.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a band that was born in the pandemic. Also, I want to make a quick note. I'm not an official member of Tainted Love, but I'm sort of a cousin.
Okay.
So I just want to say that, and love those guys. But yeah, Neon is basically my project. And Mustache, I'm a member of, so Mustache Harbor, which you got to see in Burlingame.
That's correct.
And but there's another band that was born during the pandemic that is just a duo comprised of myself and Noel. my soon-to-be wife.
That's correct.
And so we have a kind of what do I say, dark wave punk band called Moth Tax.
What's it called again?
Moth Tax.
Okay.
So everyone at some point must pay the moth tax. All right. So I do recommend that people look up on YouTube and Spotify Moth Tax. 2 different words. Yeah. And it's a really special thing that we went around filming. There's a video for all 4 songs on our EP.
Mm-hmm.
And we really bonded in making this piece. So I just want to give that a little bit of love, because there'll be more coming from that project. But the other thing is also Noel and I are starting another Duran Duran tribute band that's called New Moon on Monday. We just shot a video promo for it, and so that'll be also.
When you do that tribute band, you said it's going to be like a Duran Duran?
Yeah, it'll be exactly a Duran Duran tribute.
Are you going to use any of the existing guys that you work with now to be on that, or are you looking for some new people?
Yeah, a little of both. So the guitar player from Neon Velvet, Nervo is his name. He's just, you can't get any better. Of course, I'm going to ask him.
Yeah.
And he's a lifer like me, what I call it. Means he doesn't have any other type of job than being a musician. So
I know.
We can focus. But like the bass player from Mustache Harbor is in it as per availability, because everybody's busy. You got to have backups. You got to have a pool of people, which we kind of all are for each other, and that's how I've played with TL.
What happens if you get a text from your drummer and he's saying, "I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm moving from the area." How do you find somebody else to fill in for him?
Well, first I put a hit out on that person. No. What I found through the pandemic, as I'll probably say a bunch of times in this conversation, is everybody's priorities changed, rightfully, mine too. And we kind of figured out what mattered to us more than a perfect show or rehearsing every single week, which I used to be staunch on. And you kind of just start embracing a little bit more things that are important. So if someone quits, I just look to the pool of people we already have for subs, because things happen already anyway. People can't do every show, family death or marriage or whatever it is. So, I just went, I think I probably used subs for a couple months if we're thick with shows and I don't have time to audition new people. But when I do, I start putting out ads and talking to people, putting the word out. I did all in. It's all malleable.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Just answer one thing for me. When you do audition somebody, and we'll just pick a drummer for an example, how many songs will you audition him for? And then you mentally make, okay, this guy's going to be good or he's not going to be good. Do you do 3
I
or
probably
4
pick
songs?
about 5, because I want to pick something like with a shuffle, something that's really fast and complicated, something that's really slow and simple, which is often the hardest thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And but I will say you can tell in like 30 seconds.
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, so,
and then how do you let him know? You just say, "Hey, thank you very much for today. I'll get a hold of you."
Yeah,
there's more guys.
I'll never say you got the job right off.
Right.
I mean, just because you want to give everybody a shot, and I'm such an instinctive puppy dog in a way that's like I need to check myself, because I'm likely to say, "Oh my God, will you join us and have dinner tonight and take care of my baby?"
Can we talk about your European tours for a few minutes?
Yeah.
12 countries?
Yep.
Wow. How did you book all that stuff? Are you your own agent, or do you have an agent?
Have an agent. I want to thank this guy named Bob Davis, right? There's only 7 million of those, but Bob Davis, who's a Bay Area musician, had a band called Pure, and he and the Dens used to do shows together, but he was the first one to get a European tour through his own means. And then the booking agency that he worked with over there, he shared some of my stuff with them, and then they kind of made an offer to me to come out there. So I'm forever grateful for him for starting that. And then that was one channel, but that was actually not the first time I went out there. It was the first time with the new booking agency in Germany. But before that, through other music contacts, we toured on a McDonald's sponsored in France.
How'd that come about?
Well, because there was a guy who used to be a DJ on KMEL, Dave Measy, and him and Ben Thompson, who were co-producers of a record I was making, Pins and Needles at the time, they knew Leroy Chambers, who's from Washington, D.C. He's a transplant over there in the Burgundy region. Well, actually, at the time, he was in the northern France. But anyway, so he just got it, that's how we did it. They said, hey, we got this kid that we're producing a new record with, and we want to get some touring out there, see if we can drum up interest. So Leroy took a few of the recordings around, and we got a little bit of radio play. And I don't know how he finagled the McDonald's thing, but that first tour, it was so hard to top because the last show, just want to say why you should try things, because it was a real risk doing the whole thing, but why anyone should try things, they don't know how it's going to go, is the last show was for like 5,000 people, but it was because I was supposed to open for this artist who was already had hits, okay? But because he was kind of a chilled out, beachy kind of a singer-songwriter, they didn't want us to go on before him, or it might be kind of lopsided with kind of a heavier driving rock thing. So we ended up going after him, and it gave the impression that he opened for us.
Oh my gosh.
So,
what an opportunity that turned out to be.
Yeah. And it was just, things really took off from there.
Yeah.
So it's funny how just the perception of something.
Was there a lot of out of pocket money involved in that particular tour, or all the tours?
It is. I think usually it is, because you have to usually kind of take care of the promoters and all the flights, and just getting rehearsal stuff together, and advertising, and just a lot of things that you kind of do before any huge project. And if it goes well, you make it all back tenfold,
Yeah.
But it's always a risk.
Did you have one country that you felt you were accepted more warmly than the other countries? One that you would say, I'm going to go back there. I'm going back there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say no, not really, but because our booking agency, which was called Pop Killers with AZ ending, we're based in Dresden. That always felt like the home of the touring, of touring Europe.
Yeah.
So I really love Dresden, and that's kind of home base where I can play solo shows on off days, and I know my way around.
Yep.
And we've filmed videos there and stuff like that. So I don't think we're more accepted there, because we've had really great responses in like Croatia and everywhere. Really, I'm really grateful to say, but that's kind of the home.
And what group did you tour with? Who did you go with on that particular tour?
It's been different every time.
It has
pretty
been.
much.
Yeah.
Because it's just you have to find someone who's gonna have 2 months that they can get away,
give up, right?
Yeah, and even if you do well monetarily, you have to be able to cover your own life for the 2 months until you get paid. What happens with your rent? What happens with your kids or whatever you got going on? And so in between tours, a lot of times people might have kids, or different things happen in their life where I have had people go on more than one tour. It's not that, but generally the lineup is at least one person different every time.
Yeah.
And that keeps it fun. But one thing we tried the last 2 tours was to hire musicians who live over there.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was a real challenge. I would have them.
How do you audition them?
Well, I send them songs, and I have them playing along with it on a video, and I ask them to dress the part and completely, be like they're going to be on stage. So I want to see how they read kind of the style of what it is, and if they have some charisma, in their performance and confidence. And so that's how we did it. But still, the last time, we had players were great, but we had a language barrier.
Yeah.
So we kind of got there maybe 4 days early and just had 4 marathon rehearsals, but I think we could have used more time, so I learned a lot.
Were they singing as well? Were they doing vocals as well, or are they just doing the instruments?
I ask for vocals, especially because the last 2 tours we performed as a trio.
Uh-huh.
So I was going for kind of a police approach, even though I was playing guitar.
Right, but did they speak much English?
No.
So they had to learn the song.
So they would be like, for the next, should we do surgeon? And I'm like, huh? I find out they mean, would you like to play Be Your Own Surgeon, one of our songs? What is it? Is it surgeon? So it's amazing. And that's not a making fun.
No,
I think
of
we're
course
in a
not.
woke thing where that's not meant to be racist. I love it. And it's part of the fun. And it was super cute and interesting and a challenge. And they probably thought I was like, well, let's try this. Very Western idiot, which I am. So, but
any plans to return to Europe?
for sure, we want to go back. I wanted to go back this year, but since I'm going to be getting married in September, which trumps everything as it should, I want to go back next year. But also it has to do with I like to have a new record every time I go out. I want new content. I want it to feel like a new statement, a new message, a new look, a new me.
Plus, do cover though while you're there. Is that correct? Or do all original music?
I mean,
in Europe?
it's a lot. It's probably 80-20 original,
Uh-huh.
and there are people who come to see you from before. So
Yep.
it's in the club scene. You'll want to wake things up every, I don't know, 5 to 10 songs with something, and plus it's like helps to define your own sound of that particular tour because I don't play the same covers each time.
Right.
But anyway, so whatever I'm in.
Well, what would you call the band when you're there though? Would that be Bray and the Dens?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes it might be shortened to the Dens, or sometimes they might just say Bray. But I'm trying to really bring into the public eye more just the name of the Dens. But I still kind of, for instance, like if I want to put out a record by the Dens, then how am I going to connect that in the catalog within Spotify, let's say, with a completely different name? It's just, it's tough. I want to bridge that, and so I'm kind of doing it. I think it's best to say Bray and the Dens because the Dens becomes any lineup that's working on a record or live.
Okay. Thank you for all that. So how, you do a lot of cover music, like you said. How receptive are you to fans emailing you or texting you with suggestions? Hey, can you do Louie Louie?
Yeah.
Or, how do you feel about that stuff? And how do you answer them?
I think any musician would be lying if they say they like it. All right.
Yeah.
But, man, we're entertainers and I want to please people. So I guess it's a balance. If I'm going to play a wedding, shoot, I expect people to make some requests. I mean, generally the way we'll do it is to encourage, quote unquote, encourage to please look at our extensive, song list to choose from there. But we will learn songs within reason and on occasion kind of thing. Like generally say, hey, 5 or less, and can you get those to us like 2 months ahead? But Louie, come on.
Have you ever had the bride of the mother? Let's see, the bride.
Mother
of the bride come to you and say, something that's not even on your playlist, and
all the time, and they'll do it in the middle of the show, in the middle of singing. So they're like standing up at the stage and just talking to you while you're singing. But yeah, I think people, and that's okay because I understand people who are not musicians don't understand that you're not a jukebox. You don't just know how to play a song because you're familiar with the song.
Yeah.
So, and plus, the way I tell them a lot of times is, hey, anything that we do for you, we want to give you 100% excellence. So, that's why we ask for things in advance. I might even say this, from the stage, quietly off the mic, and say, this is why we ask for stuff in advance, because we want your event to be full of love and flawless, no distractions and everything. And the other thing is sometimes this happens. Someone who is not in the family, not the bride, not the mother of the bride, will be requesting things just because they're lost in the moment. They're excited.
Sure.
So that happens all the time. Any party, any private event, it's bound to happen. And you say, you know what, I got hired by whoever it is, and we were asked to stay in the bounds of what they hired us for.
Good answer.
So I hope you're enjoying it. I hope that works for you.
Yeah.
I kind of bring it that way so people understand. I don't want to just say no to them and be cool, but we can't just do everything.
No, I get that. That's a really good answer. I mean, without blowing somebody off, you're doing it politely and respectfully.
But it is annoying.
All right, we're going to flash back a couple of years back now to the pandemic, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you are making your living doing gigs, right? That's how you were making your living going into the pandemic.
Oh, right. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden the pandemic hits and now there's nothing.
Right.
What'd you do?
Well, there was a bit of flail at first, and also we didn't know how long it was going to last. So I didn't know it was necessary to come up with a total solution, other than live just yet. So I was kind of just doing other interviews, frankly, like this, and unpaid, which is great. That's fine. Just
because you're not getting paid for this one.
Oh. You know what? This has been really great, and I want to say thank you.
Oh, we're wrapping up.
No. This is a joy. And so, no, I mean, I didn't know what to do, and I kind of was in a wait and see mode, like I think a lot of us were. But as it started to be clear that it was going to be a long haul, there's a channel called Patreon where people can just do anything. It's not music by any means. It can be any way to communicate with people as a community who might be interested in one thing, one person, where they're going to subscribe. So I really just was being introduced to that myself. Noelle, my wife-to-be, I hate the word fiance, but she, I might as well just say my wife, but she is really industrious, and she kind of was filming me just as an experiment, doing, say, 5 songs and kind of talking and just saying hi and just trying to connect with the outside world just in a real, in the moment, honest way. And we go, hey, this was kind of a good experience. And we could just put it out on Patreon and sort of shared it just to see what would happen. Maybe it was even free the first time. I don't know. Can't remember, but enough people were kind of just wanting to connect, and we just kept it. You could pay whatever you wanted, and I know a lot of people did that. But what we started to develop through Noelle's leadership on it was to turn it into a weekly show, and that's how it was able to be something to sustain. But boy, did it turn into this whole journey of like it making a dream of mine come true to have like a show, really my own sort of version of like a Saturday Night Live or a David Letterman or something.
I think that's when many of your viewers got introduced to Ain't June.
Yeah, that's right. Ain't June. Yeah.
And the other character, and I'm sorry I can't remember.
We had Nervous Norman.
Was he the one that wanted herbal tea?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And we had JD.
JD.
Yeah. He was like, Mom. That was JD.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was a number of people that were I enjoyed working with.
Yeah. And your skits weren't always musical. They were funny skits. They were
we
just
wanted
having a good time.
I think it turned into a variety show, which made it a ton of work, but a lot of fun. And I learned how to edit video and just produce kind of a live music setting in the house, which was fraught with problems and like setbacks and mistakes. And sometimes I would have like a really, what I thought was a pretty good performance or maybe of any kind, and I would find out it didn't land on tape, or something happened, or there was like the audio was all screwed up, so I'd have to do it again, and it ended up filling really all week. I might have one day off a week where I'd still kind of be writing up ideas, and as businesses slowly started opening up, I would go out and maybe kind of honor a small business, go to like a chocolate shop that's down the street and kind of film the experience in there, and then later share that on YouTube and tag them, and kind of the people that were trying to survive through this thing together. I was getting so much help. I definitely wanted to help other people because the amount of help I got was staggering, and I literally was able to survive because I did get a loan from the government, but luckily I didn't have to really touch it. So I just paid it back every cent like recently.
Yeah. Was that like a loan they had for people that were in business?
Yes.
To help you through it, right?
Yeah, SBA.
Yeah.
So,
boy.
yeah.
So you did all of this in your home in Walnut Creek, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you would work on it maybe 5, 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
Your shows were what, half hour, 20? Were they an hour?
Well, we had to hone that. So the first time was probably just 10 minutes just to see what was going on. And then as it got really elaborate, it was like 5 songs and 3 comedy skits, and it was getting to be like 25 minutes.
Yep.
And frankly, way too much to finish in 1 week for me, all by myself. So I kind of got it down where the happy spot was 2 bits and 3 songs. You know, an intro with kind of a theme.
Right.
So, and then just...
How many episodes did you put on?
On
Patreon.
Yeah, 100.
100.
Yeah, and we never missed a week. So I was really just grateful for that. And it was a bit of a drudge at times, and we kind of could have stopped maybe 20 before that because things were kind of coming back.
Yeah.
And the band was starting to work.
Is Patreon? I'm not real familiar with it, although I did see some of your shows.
Yeah.
Is Patreon like YouTube, where if I wanted to go back to Patreon now and sign back in, I can see some of your past shows, or do they disappear?
So you're saying you didn't watch every episode?
I did not watch every episode. No, I was working.
Again, thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
Oh, all right, you worked. Yeah, you did work through the pandemic. That's
I did.
true. That's
okay.
true.
Yeah.
At Molly Stone's,
That's
which
right.
I want to give a shout out to.
There was only 2 things doing business during the pandemic, right? Pizza parlors and grocery stores, man. That's the only things that were open. So
yeah. And Patreon.
Yeah.
No, so what was your question?
Okay. Can you go back and see past videos?
Yes, you can. You certainly can. Yep. They're all right there. You can, and they're numbered, and they all have... That's another thing I enjoyed a great deal, too, was each show had a write-up. Within the listing of that episode, I would write about every song and just kind of how I was feeling that week, and it became a bit of a diary and a way to communicate. And people would comment or ask questions on there, make requests, and that was a big part of human connection that also got me through.
Yeah. Was there any thoughts during that time of saying, you know what, I don't know how long this thing's going to go, and I just can't keep doing these Patreon things. Maybe I will look into graphic arts. Did you ever have that kind of moment?
Well, you had
a moment of despair.
Every week.
Yeah.
But I never thought of going to graphic arts too much. I just thought I need to skip a week because I'm burnt out. Mostly just that.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit not that way, to be honest, too. I'm kind of like, I don't think about that, or I push away a doubt as soon as I feel it. And sometimes it comes back to bite me when I do that.
Sure.
But I generally just go, nope, this is the way I'm going to survive. And I want to, it's like running a marathon. I knew somewhere along there that I wanted it 100.
Yeah. Okay. Did you stay in communication? Because everybody,
Sure.
You guys were all in the same boat, right?
Yes. I wonder how other people experienced this, including you. Maybe you'll tell me how it was for you. But I thought I would be in touch more often than I was with people. And I did kind of see how a person could, frankly, die of melancholy. Because it's sort of like when you get in a loop of not talking to people and working or doing whatever you're doing, reading, sleeping, whatever it is, running, I found I kind of got in my own cocoon, and it got harder and harder to reach out because I felt socially strange and disconnected, and it just got harder. And I can see how let's say a shy person or someone who's just wants to stay inside and whatever it is, less social, it just becomes harder and harder. So I did keep in touch with people, but it was really special because it wasn't, every day or anything like that.
Yeah. Gosh. You basically stayed within your house, huh?
Yeah,
working
pretty
on
much.
your project.
I even tried jogging around the house, and it's a very small house, so I started getting knee problems because I was like the same 45 over and over. You know.
Okay. Let's talk about the arts. Okay.
Yeah.
You and your good buddy Adam.
Yes.
Do comical skits in front of live audiences periodically, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would call it theater production.
Okay, great. Let's move to that. Let's talk about that a little bit, that other part of your world.
Yeah.
Anything going on currently?
There is. So I guess I can just explain a little bit of how it came about, which will take me to what's happening now. So the first thing we ever did was a stage adaptation of the movie Dumb and Dumber. And I laughed till I peed for 2 months straight while we put that together. That doesn't count the 4 years it took for him to create the stage adaptation. Of course, it's not every day, but it's like writing a book, right? You get in your rhythm. But it's just to say that he did a really brilliant thing in figuring out how to bring that to the stage and divide the stage up and make it flow quickly with different scenes. So that was great. We did it 2 different times over probably a 7-year period, two short runs. And then we had also started to explore other comedy that interested us and tickled us. So we did a tribute to Rowan Atkinson, who is Mr. Bean, after that. But recently, I have a good friend who I was telling him about these things, and he introduced me to someone in Vegas. So we got to audition Dumb and Dumber in Vegas, and luckily it's turning into, we'll see. But so far we have a chance they're going to let us do one show in a little bit of an off the strip cabaret.
Boy, that would be amazing.
So we're putting that together. But so I want to just share a little about the audition, if that's okay. The audition was crazy. We were put up in a sleaze room, which is great. We paid for our flights. We went there, brought a suitcase of props, put together about a 10-minute mini version of the entire thing that was like just a blistering pace kind of thing. And so I thought it was just going to be that venue owner who came to this.
Would he do bring a crowd with him?
She did. She's the owner of this cabaret, and she had maybe 10 people were there.
Right.
And so they couldn't get the lights to work or anything because her AV person wasn't there. So we ended up doing it on the floor in like cafeteria lighting.
Wow.
So and they didn't laugh once
during
the entire thing. Just sat there, totally silent, watching, stone-faced. And when we're done, that was very, very funny. So that was kind of like that. I imagine this as people who see this kind of thing all the time, and they're looking at the, saleability, technical aspects, stuff like that.
When you were performing in front of that crowd and they weren't laughing, was there a way that you and Adam made eye contact or anything to say, this seems a little strange to me, or what I mean?
Nope, not at all. We were 1,000% in character and committed, and just doing our thing.
Yeah.
Nope. It was like the Olympics.
Yeah.
So
totally focused.
Yeah.
So does Adam do most of the writing? Do you guys collaborate on the writing?
We collaborate, and it's kind of rewriting. I want to say because these are masterpieces that we're kind of messing with.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to because, to make it flow, some things get cut. You know how they'll like show a movie on TV and they have commercials and some things, well, what happened to that scene,
Yeah.
So we found out from that long conversation after that audition where we learned tons. I'm telling you, one of the people there, it turns out, was the talent buyer for Caesar's Palace.
No kidding.
Can you believe that?
Boy.
So you could tell he was a big shot too. He had his manicured nails. Looked like Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
Real Mac. So we were like, wow, that guy's something.
Yeah.
And but he gave us a lot of game, is what you call it. He gave us game, and he just hipped us to a bunch of things we needed to do if we want to take this to Vegas and really climb the ladder and succeed. One of the things is that generally shows are going to need to be closer to an hour. And our show was close to 2 hours. So this means we're going to have to somehow cut this whole thing in half.
Shave this thing in half.
Boy, is it harder than that even sounded to us at the time.
Yeah.
And we've spent this last month since that audition trying to reshape it. So I would say Adam does do the bulk of that. And then we'll meet with kind of a new version, or we trade, Google Docs or whatever it is, and kind of do some editing together a little bit, or we'll vote on what scene might have to get cut, and then we'll see how it flows, which we've been doing.
And then would you call this particular lady back up and say, hey, we've got a revised version.
Yep.
May we have another audition?
No, it's she already said from that audition, put together your hour and come do a show.
Oh, terrific.
So, and it'll be like a paid, a regular show where it's like $50 entry and maybe 200 people.
Do you find this interfering with your, musical pursuits?
Making a living in the arts, in my experience, is impossible. It's improbable. And so, yeah, but it's all part of the fun, and it's like, spinning plates, right? It's maybe something breaks and you have 1,000 of them up there, but
okay.
It's making choices, right? Like something that may pay more but have less long term. It's always decisions. So really every morning I'm spending at least an hour kind of like booking and juggling this stuff and just kind of calendar work.
Yeah.
And I want to keep everyone happy. And right now, for instance, I'm not playing as often with Mustache Harbor as I'd really like. And so that balance is kind of swaying and moving, and I feel uncomfortable even about that, but I have to keep saying this is something I'm doing right now, and it's all basically I think for us to remind ourselves a lot of things that we do are our choice instead of feeling like pushed into it or hurting. It's kind of like, this is what I want to do, and I can change course too.
Okay, so in knowing all of that, through the course of a year, will you do any sort of pro bono work just for exposure? A gig that you don't get paid for, but you were asked to play at the county fair. Well, we don't have enough money to pay you, but would you just do it for exposure? Or are you at a point now where you say, sorry, we'd like to, but we're not going to do that?
Well, I'll give you an example. There is a organization called Support the Kid, which is collecting money to go toward kids with cancer. So that is something we do every year at a drastically reduced rate, just so we can get the production there. So in other words, I don't always want to pull along 20 people for a cause that I'm passionate about. I'll try to take care of them, and it's an agreement I have. That's not to say I wouldn't do something completely pro bono, but an example with that is a little bit win-win, a core group of us who are doing it to donate fully, and then you take care of a team around you to enable that, and so that they have the full big show.
Great.
You can survive.
Yeah. Are you working every night? Are you busy every night? Are you doing something every night?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so, Bray, rumor has it that you're getting married.
Yes, I am, and I couldn't be happier. And I want to bore you just a little bit with the story of how it happened.
Go ahead.
All right?
Yep.
So it just makes me so happy to think about it. And so our favorite venue to perform in, Noel and I's, on Earth is Bimbo's in San
Bimbo's
Francisco.
365.
That's right. It's a Italian-owned club in North Beach that's been there forever. It's got the old school velvet curtain vibe, and it's just perfect, right up my alley. It's kind of romantic and old school, and kind of like the movie Casino or something like that. So it's our favorite place. I talked her into this. Oh, let's go to lunch at the original Joe's. I think they're going to close down. Her scientific mind, she looks it up, and a week later goes, I found out they're not closing. I'm like, just enjoy,
Right.
All this stuff kind of not going right. I hired through cajoling and pleading and begging them to put on the marquee outside the proposal. So they're only going to do it for a short window of time. It's all this orchestrating. I get our neon velvet photographer, Ken, this sweet guy, to come and hide around a bush, and be there at the time. Oh, well, that day there's no traffic, so I'm like a half hour early, freaking out. Ken's not there yet.
Yeah.
I don't want her, The guy messaged me from Bimbo. Bimbo goes, yeah, it's up. It's on the billboard. Oh yeah, but it's on both sides. I asked it to be on one.
Right,
when
so
we
you don't want
drive
to
up
give it
the
away.
God dang one-way street, she
Yep.
could see it. So I noticed that she's going to see it, so I try to go a longer way around. Oh, well, then I hit all the San Francisco one-way streets. It took me to freaking Alameda.
Oh,
I was
my
all screwed up going the wrong way. I'm like, go down a wrong way, one way, and a cable car is barreling toward us. She's like, babe, what are you doing? Nothing, I was just so happy to be here. I'm just looking at the beautiful day. It's just like a bunch of Magoo stuff happening. Now we finally get up around the top of the hill where I want to park, where we always park to play at Bimbo's, so I can say, oh, let's park here because it's kind of in between two places I want to go. Let's go to Buena Vista, and let's go to Original Joe's and have a nice walk and stuff. So I'm praying there's going to be a parking space there. Thank God. It was like from
Yep.
gold
Right.
bar of
Uh-huh.
sun from,
Yep.
And then so we start walking down the street. Well, I got to figure out how to not let her see it before I'm ready to get on one knee, and do the whole thing. So I'm like, we get to the corner. I go, oh man, I see the photographer crouching by the wall. I'm like, get out of the way. And he kind of hides back behind it. And I'm afraid she sees that, so I'm kind of trying to distract her. Hey, maybe we should walk across the street. It's just barreling toward that moment. Oh, God, everything's going right. Okay. And so we get right to that corner, and I don't want her to see it before I can get on the correct side of her to get the photo right. So I go, hey, there's something wrong with my zipper. Can you take a look at this? And, of course, she's like, like, dummy. So she starts messing with it. And I'm standing finally now in the right position. And I go, hey, look who's playing tonight.
Oh, wow.
And then she looked over and she goes, what is happening? And I got on one knee. So
And the photographer was there
he
for
caught
it.
He caught it, yeah. And I didn't expect to be a freaking nervous wreck.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Had to be.
Took me 2 hands to get it on her.
Yeah.
Ring on her.
That's
And
great.
It was like the best moment I can imagine.
Yeah.
And we just hugged for 20 minutes maybe, I don't know, and then I had to go give the Bimbo's guys an envelope.
Of course. What did the and I saw it, I can't remember, did it say, Noel, will you marry me, or did it just say, will you marry me?
It said Noel because I wanted it to be like not just anyone
Right.
to anyone,
Yeah.
even though
You had her name
people
on there.
tease me because she, who else would ask her, or
Yeah.
who else would I ask? But
Yeah.
I just wanted it to be both our names are on there to be
great.
unmistakably ours,
Yeah.
And just that extra, effort. I had to pay by the letter too. So no, I'm just kidding.
Hey, by the letter, yeah. No. Have you played at Bimbo since then?
Nope, because that was pretty recent. Just actually, I'm so sorry. I did.
Yeah.
I did play there with Mustache Harbor since. So
Great.
I got to see the owner. I went in again, thanked everyone.
Yeah.
Even though I did right after, I took her with me, and we were just like walking
That's
on
great.
air, so I don't even remember it. But at the thing, I made the rounds at that next gig, which was maybe a month later. Yeah. So the answer is yes.
Well, Bray, we've run almost 50 minutes here, and I think you've answered.
Wait, how long was Jackie Spear?
53.
No, that's great, man. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thanks. I think that you have answered anybody's question of why you are the busiest musician in rock, music here in the Bay Area. And I thank you for your time, and I thank you for coming over from Walnut Creek to do this with me. And I know we've wanted to do this for a long time, so thank you very much, Bray.
It's my honor, and you're my hero.
You hear that, folks?
That's right.
Thank you very much, Bray. Many thanks to Bray for being my guest today on my premiere podcast of Mark Goes Rogue. My apologies to Bray for having to wait a year and a half to listen to it. Since our interview, Bray has married Noelle, and besides being his life partner, she also plays and sings in their band, and she's also an amazing dentist. You can hear more of Bray at braymusic.com. You can also follow him on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks for listening, everyone. Mark at the Mic, signing off.